Hey everyone, this is Dr. Yap, and we are having a chat with David from Mindset. So let us know what Mindset is and what do you do there and how did you come about putting this all thing together?
Right, so I'm David. I'm one of the co-founders of Mindset. We started about 2 years ago. What we make is a pair of headphones that uses your brain activity to improve concentration in the workplace. So you put them on, EEG sensors along the inside band monitor your electrical activity, and we've developed software that basically does the analysis of the brain's electrical activity and figure out in real time, are you focused or not? And
Right.
based on this, we can kind of provide training to improve that concentration
I need
life.
one of those. So I guess the question today is around the whole evolution of startups and VCs, and we have folks listening and watching us trying to figure out. I have an idea. What am I gonna do now? So what would be your kind of wisdom that you can share with folks regarding this whole startup idea?
I mean, one of the things that we often hear is that ideas are cheap.
Okay.
A lot of ideas out there, and there's probably 1,000 people with the same idea that you have right now. And really, what makes the difference is the execution. How do you go from idea to kind of making something? And sometimes what you got to do is just take the first step. And just you do a preliminary analysis. You see, is that a viable idea? Is it just a cool idea, or can you actually build something on it? So you kind of look around. Is anybody else doing that? What needs to be resolved? What are the main risks associated with that idea? Then you can kind of take a first step like this, and at some point you will need to commit. Limit the ideas that you have and say, this one I'm going
Not
for it.
everything.
Yeah. One of the things I discuss often with my co-founders, if you had to tell someone, what are the key things you've learned, it's very difficult. You can pick up a book, but it's always general.
Right.
And what I could tell you would also be general, because I think there's a lot of value in the small day-to-day things and the mistakes that you do, and you learn and you develop an intuition. So the best way to learn, if you like entrepreneurship, is to actually do it.
Right. Just start it and get it over.
Yep.
And then keep on iterating, I guess, right? Now, what about the whole VC idea? How do you prepare for that?
So not all types of businesses are VC fundable.
Okay.
So when you have a VC, what they want is to be investing money and getting money in return. Return on investment. So basically, the kind of companies that they will be looking for is companies that scale quickly and that will be able to generate value quickly. So what you have to do in preparation for getting VCs, first of all, you need to figure out, is my business the kind of business that can scale quickly, generate revenue quickly, and provide return on investment quickly.
Right.
And sometimes it's a bit difficult for companies like hardware, because hardware is difficult to scale.
Right.
And that's how do you mitigate these risks is going into the argument when you prepare to talk to a VC. And one of the question, which is the question that we talked about when we did the competition, is basically is there a path for your company within, say, 7 years that will take you to 100 million year-over-year revenue?
Right.
So if there is such a path and such a market that exists that allows you to scale, then that means the potential is good enough to be fundable, and then you can kind of talk about mitigating the other risks.
Right. Now, when do you know to shift? Because we talked about the idea of data as well as the hardware from your product, and you've recognized that at some point the hardware may need to kind of have its end point, but then the data you can leverage for other businesses. When do you think that that's now, okay, we need to shift now?
I mean, this is the value of setting milestones, because you have the end goal, say $100 million in revenue by year 7, and then you need to set probably middle ground milestone like 50 million by this year, and maybe like for other milestones, and then based on that you can see, is it actually possible to just scale the hardware, or do we need to do something different? And what is most scalable? It is easier inherently to scale software and to scale data, because you can develop the value once and then distribute it without much additional effort. Whereas like hardware, it's every unit, you know, you need like that amount of extra effort. So what you need to do is set intermediate milestones and then see how well you can execute on these intermediate milestones. And then if you can't quite make it, then you won't make it to the final ones. You need to kind of reevaluate as you go. Yeah.
So you always have to have some contingency plans here.
Yeah, for sure. And there's layers and layers of them, you know. When someone asks you a question about what's your future plan, you probably have like 7 answers deep worth of things, so that they can kind of dig, and you always like 2-3 steps ahead in the conversation.
That's wonderful. Now, we also had conversations regarding the actual hardware. When did you, like, how do you make that decision to work with Onkyo as against other companies, for example?
Yeah, part of it is kind of very business oriented, whereas like what is the relationship that you had, that we had at the time. So we kind of looked a bit around at different partnerships. Many companies are requiring, for example, proofs. Like if we want to integrate, say, sensors into headphones, then people are looking to see what that actually looks like, which is why we're making the full product right now. Onkyo, what we do right now, the partnership, is that we leverage the brand, whereas like they are the audio experts, and we need that because who are we? We've never designed audio. We're experts in artificial intelligence. We're doing the sensor and the whole electronics pipeline, but we don't have to be experts in everything. Now, our investors, which is SOSV, one of our investors, they had many ties, so we explored all the opportunities, and it turns out that Onkyo was one of the best fit that we did.
So that would be one of the best opportunities then, is when you work with a VC that has their own network, you can leverage that. Is that
of course
how you got that?
I mean, you have to leverage every opportunity that you have and weigh all of them. And just, you know, how does that fit in the development? Right now, what we needed is to have the kind of support of a big name that would tell, you know, these will sound great. And that's what we were looking for. And we also got similar introductions to good factories. It's hard to find a good factory, and you need to go through introduction and have someone like Onkyo tell us, you know, we work with them, and then we get access to tier 1 factories that can work with us even though we're a startup. So it's about like finding our point of leverage as a startup and see, you know, how can we get the most out of this situation, although we're not making 1 million units the first year.
Now, how do you handle the whole language issue? Because, you know, the companies are in China, and I know you're learning how to speak Chinese. He's really good at it. But how did you deal with that, right? So coming in, you knew this was going to be a Chinese company, or
No, not at all. When we first started, we went in Toronto as part of the Next 36 program. So I mean, that was very much a Canadian thing. So we go there, we learned a lot about the business, about the finance, about entrepreneurship and building a company. It turns out that what we needed at some point was to actually get support on building the product, which is where Hacks came in. And Hacks is this accelerator program that is based, they have a section in China, which basically they help us scale and make the product and then scale it after. And it's based in Shenzhen, and they teach us how to leverage that ecosystem to make hardware easier to develop and cheaper to develop. So they have this whole thing already there. So we went there and they kind of help us. They have a team. They have a team of engineers. They have sourcing managers and local Chinese staff that basically can support us in doing that.
Now, for my last question, how do you handle IP? Because now you're working with a bunch of all these people. How do you ensure that the proprietary information doesn't really go away?
It's definitely difficult. Here, the rules are definitely more strict. So if you have an NDA, it can be enforced. In China, there's a lot. it's just like the rules are different.
Yeah.
So you can use rules here, but they won't apply or be enforceable in China. So there are things that you can do, like NNNs, which is basically a adaptation of NDAs that is more suited for China. And then there's information online about that. So that's something that you can do, but you really need to be, first of all, aware of the problems that may happen and tackle them beforehand, like a trademark. It's first to file there, and it's not first to use. And now, you need to just do your due diligence and see, what is it that is different in China, and how do I address that before actually jumping in. Yeah.
Right. So at the end of the day, it's all about research.
Yeah,
Do your homework.
Yeah. Exactly. But now there's no reason for not knowing these things because it's widely available. Exactly. We're not the first people to go in Shenzhen to do that. There are books now about like Shenzhen being, this new entrepreneurship hub for hardware. Like people have thought about this.
Right,
before.
right. Good. So what would the next couple of years look like for you then, and what would you be tackling?
So in the next couple months, what we're going to be doing is really shipping the product that we had on the Kickstarter.
Yep.
So we run this Kickstarter, and now we're going through the manufacturing run. After the product is on the market, there's going to be a lot of kind of software improvement, understanding the way people actually are interfacing with the product, because we have assumptions, we've done tests, we've done customer testing, but once you put it out in the market, people tell you actually what works and what doesn't.
Right.
So from there, we will be adjusting and trying to focus on the core value add that we bring.
And that would be next steps. I love it. We're looking forward to it. We're very excited. So look for their product. We'll put a little link down here somewhere.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.